At 23:33 hours on August 6, 1943, the SG surface search radar aboard the United States Navy destroyer USS Dunlap registered 4 surface contacts at a range of approximately 29,500 yards. The contacts were located north of the American task group in Vela Gulf, between Kolombangara Island to the east and Vela Lavella Island to the west. Visibility at the time was minimal due to overcast skies and the absence of moonlight. Detection was achieved entirely by radar. Commander Frederick Moosbrugger was commanding the task group from Dunlap's bridge. Information from the radar was relayed through the ship's Combat Information Center, where operators tracked the contacts continuously. The radar returns indicated 4 ships proceeding south at high speed. The Japanese force showed no signs of awareness that it had been detected. Within the next 17 minutes, 3 of the 4 Japanese destroyers would be sunk. More than 1,000 Japanese soldiers and sailors would be lost. No American ships would be hit, and no American combat casualties would be sustained. The engagement would later be recognized as a decisive turning point in night surface warfare in the Pacific. The Japanese force consisted of 4 destroyers transporting approximately 900 Imperial Japanese Army troops to Kolombangara Island. Captain Kaju Sugiura commanded the group from the destroyer Hagekaze. The formation also included Arashi and Kawakaze, both carrying troops, and Shigure, which provided escort. The force was operating as part of the Tokyo Express, a series of nighttime supply and reinforcement missions that had been conducted with considerable success over the previous year. The route through Vela Gulf was familiar to the Japanese. Captain Sugiura had used it multiple times without encountering American opposition. During the planning phase, the commander of Shigure raised concerns that repeatedly using the same approach route increased the risk of interception. The objection was dismissed. Japanese commanders believed their experience in night operations and their superiority in night fighting techniques would protect the force. Japanese confidence was based on several factors. Their destroyer crews were extensively trained for nighttime combat. Their lookouts were considered among the most capable in the world. Their Type 93 oxygen-fueled torpedoes, known to the Allies as the Long Lance, had a range significantly greater than American torpedoes. In previous engagements, Japanese destroyers had consistently achieved surprise and delivered devastating torpedo attacks before American forces could react. Waiting in Vela Gulf was an American destroyer force consisting of 6 ships divided into 2 tactical divisions. Dunlap, Craven, and Maury formed the 1st Division, each carrying a full load of Mark 15 torpedoes. Lang, Sterrett, and Stack formed the 2nd Division, equipped with reduced torpedo capacity but enhanced gunfire and anti-aircraft capability. All 6 destroyers were fitted with SG surface search radar. For the first time in the Pacific Campaign, American destroyers were operating independently without cruiser support. This represented a significant departure from established naval doctrine. Until this point, U.S. Navy doctrine emphasized cruiser-led task forces for night surface engagements, with destroyers acting primarily as escorts. This doctrine had produced poor results. From August 1942 through mid-1943, American naval forces had lost nearly every major night surface engagement in the Solomon Islands. The most severe defeat occurred at the Battle of Savo Island in August 1942, when 4 Allied cruisers were sunk in approximately 37 minutes, resulting in heavy casualties. American ships at these battles were equipped with early radar systems, including the SC Air Search Radar. While these radars could detect contacts at long range, they suffered from limited resolution. In environments with numerous islands and coastlines, radar operators often could not distinguish ships from land masses. Commanders, therefore, relied on visual confirmation before authorizing attacks. By the time visual contact was established, Japanese torpedoes were frequently already in the water. This pattern repeated itself at Cape Esperance, the naval battles of Guadalcanal, Tassafaranga, and the Battle of Kolombangara. Radar existed, but American forces lacked the doctrine necessary to employ it effectively in night combat. The situation began to change with the introduction of the SG surface search radar. Developed in 1941 by the Massachusetts Institute of Technology Radiation Laboratory using British cavity magnetron technology, the SG radar operated at a wavelength of approximately 10 centimeters. This shorter wavelength provided substantially improved resolution compared to earlier systems. The SG radar was capable of distinguishing ships from islands and displaying contacts on a plan position indicator, allowing operators to track range and bearing simultaneously. Multiple targets could be tracked even while the ship maneuvered. The first operational SG radar was installed aboard USS Augusta in April 1942. By mid-1943, most American destroyers in the South Pacific had been equipped with the system. However, possessing the radar did not automatically translate to battlefield success. American naval doctrine still emphasized visual confirmation and cruiser-centered engagements. Radar was treated as a warning device rather than a primary targeting system. One officer who challenged this approach was Commodore Arleigh Burke. After studying repeated American defeats, Burke developed new destroyer tactics that placed radar at the center of offensive operations. His concept emphasized early radar detection, silent maneuvering to torpedo range, torpedo launch based solely on radar data, and delayed gunfire until after torpedoes were already running. These tactics were controversial. Many senior officers were reluctant to trust electronic contacts without visual confirmation. Despite this resistance, Burke's destroyer squadron achieved multiple successful engagements using radar-guided tactics, demonstrating the effectiveness of the approach. Rear Admiral Theodore Wilkinson, commanding amphibious forces in the South Pacific, recognized the significance of these results. When intelligence indicated another Japanese supply run to Kolombangara on August 6, 1943, Wilkinson assigned the interception mission to a destroyer-only task group under Commander Moosbrugger. No cruisers or battleships were assigned. Moosbrugger had previously served under Burke and was familiar with the new tactics. More importantly, Wilkinson granted Moosbrugger authority to disregard traditional doctrine. Staff recommendations to rely on long-range gunfire were rejected in favor of radar-guided torpedo attack. Before departure, Moosbrugger convened a conference with all 6 destroyer captains. The plan was reviewed in detail. The 1st Division would locate the enemy using radar and execute a silent torpedo attack. The 2nd Division would maneuver into position to cross the enemy formation and provide gunfire support only after torpedo impact. Strict radio silence would be maintained. Searchlights and gunfire were prohibited until torpedoes were launched. Radar would serve as the primary detection and targeting system. That evening, the task group entered Vela Gulf under conditions highly unfavorable to visual observation. The sky was overcast, there was no moon, and visibility was estimated at less than 1,000 yards. These conditions favored radar operations. At 23:33 hours, Dunlap's SG radar detected 4 contacts bearing approximately 312 degrees at a range of 29,500 yards. The contact was confirmed almost immediately by radar operators aboard Craven and Maori. The contacts matched intelligence estimates precisely. The Japanese destroyers were in column formation, proceeding south at approximately 30 knots. The American destroyers tracked the Japanese force continuously as the range closed. The Japanese showed no indication that they had detected the American ships. Whether this was due to terrain masking, inferior radar capability, or the absence of radar entirely was not yet known. At a range of 7,500 yards, Moosbrugger ordered the torpedo attack. Dunlap, Craven, and Maori launched a total of 24 Mark 15 torpedoes in approximately 60 seconds. Immediately after launch, the three destroyers turned away at high speed, using the dark coastline of Kolombangara Island to mask their withdrawal. The torpedoes ran toward the Japanese formation at approximately 46 knots. Estimated time to impact was 4 minutes. During this period, the 2nd American Division maintained position, holding fire and awaiting the outcome of the torpedo attack. At 23:46 hours, multiple torpedo detonations were observed. Hagekaze, Arashi, and Kawakaze were struck almost simultaneously. Fires broke out across all three ships, followed by secondary explosions as magazines detonated. At this point, the 2nd American Division opened fire with 5-inch guns, concentrating on the damaged Japanese destroyers. Kawakaze was struck in a magazine and sank within minutes. Hagekaze and Arashi were left burning and dead in the water. Shigure, the 4th Japanese destroyer, was not hit. Her commander observed the explosions but did not visually detect American ships until gunfire began. 8 torpedoes were fired toward the American position, but all missed. Shigure withdrew at high speed. By midnight, Hagekaze and Arashi had sunk. The entire engagement, from initial radar contact to final sinking, lasted approximately 26 minutes. American casualties consisted of 1 sailor injured in a non-combat accident. No American ships were damaged. Post-battle analysis emphasized the decisive role of radar. Moosbrugger's after-action report stated that the operation's success depended on the ability to track the enemy at long range, maneuver without detection, and execute torpedo attacks based entirely on radar data. Subsequent intelligence revealed that none of the Japanese destroyers at Vela Gulf carried operational radar. Japanese destroyer radar capability in 1943 was limited, and doctrine emphasized visual confirmation even when radar contacts were detected. Japanese after-action reports described the engagement as an ambush by unknown forces. The possibility that American destroyers had used radar to detect, track, and attack from beyond visual range was not fully understood at the time. Within days, the lessons of Vela Gulf were disseminated throughout the Pacific Fleet. Radar-guided destroyer tactics were adopted more widely. Subsequent engagements in August and September 1943 produced similar results, with Japanese destroyers sunk and minimal American losses. By late 1943, Japanese Naval Command altered doctrine, ordering destroyers to avoid night engagements with American forces unless significant numerical superiority was present. The Tokyo Express operations declined sharply. The SG radar remained classified throughout the war. Radar operators received little public recognition, despite their critical role. Physical examples of the equipment were largely scrapped after the war, and combat information centers were dismantled during ship modernizations. What remained was the doctrinal lesson. Technology alone did not determine victory. The effective integration of radar into tactics and command decision-making transformed American destroyer operations and reversed the balance of night surface warfare in the Pacific. The Battle of Vela Gulf demonstrated that radar-guided night combat could achieve decisive results with minimal losses. Within a year, control of nighttime surface engagements had shifted permanently to American forces.